Right, hello boxing fans and welcome to our live news update. I'm Kurt Ward and I'm joined by Adam Smith, Steve Wellings and Paul Webb. And we're going to be looking at the news that Cal Brook will be defending his IBF welterweight title against Diego Chaves on October the 24th. Adam, as our regular matchroom guy, you're going to shock a few people and you're not going to be happy with this fight, I imagine.
I'm disappointed. I kind of went through this the other night, to be fair, when we did our little when we made our hangout debut. The expectations for by Eddie Hearn were set rather high. We were set with Marquez, Bradley, and obviously Khan, and even Mrs. Mayweather and Pacquiao were mentioned to a lesser degree. What we have been delivered is a young man that has won one of his last four fights, and it is plainly not good enough, to be fair. It's a disappointment. I mean, even if you think as a casual, and the casuals are the guys that Eddie and the gang are aiming at, and the casuals are the guys that often fill stadiums and certainly will fill one in Leeds this weekend. Casuals will go on and look on BoxRec, and even they're going to be disappointed when they see a fella that's only won one of his last four fights. It's a tough sell whichever way you look at it. I mean, we often get people over from Mexico or Canada or Romania or wherever that do have unbeaten records or maybe have lost 1 in 30. They're easier to sell to the casuals, and Matchroom do it with a degree of success. This fella, tough sell. The Sky have already got their story right. Some of us have probably seen Eddie Hearn's interview today. Along the lines of he gave Furman a tough time. He was winning rounds off Bradley, even though it was a complete farce on the scorecards, and he was beating Rios. So I've used the examples before. Bayern Munich were beating Man United in 1999 in the Nou Camp. We all know what happened there. It's a tough sell. But as my question to you guys is, and I asked this the other night, I'll do it again. There's two questions. Is Kell Brook being active and fighting 4 times a year a substitute to fight substandard opponents? And is Kell Brook on a stacked card a decent substitute for fighting substandard opponents?
Steve, do you want to have a go at answering those?
Well, Adam's the main man for putting out the questions, and my answer would be no and maybe, because I can see where they're going with this. I always like to see fighters active. That's my own personal thing. And the wins over Dan and Gavin, I'm willing to let them go. If Kell Brook is going to fight 4 times this year, even against substandard opposition, I am sort of willing to let it go, because I'd rather see the guys active than seeing them sitting on the shelf. And coming back from the stabbing, I'll give him his mandatory, and I'll even let the Frankie Gavin fight slide. And this is a decent step up. We'll have to see what comes in December, if it is going to be December after this one. Because regarding Diego Chaves, I do think he is a slight step up. It was an easy fight to make. He's willing to travel. He doesn't demand huge purses. He got very low purses from what I understand for his last few fights, and he's a good name at a good price. So I can see why Eddie's gone for this one. But regarding Brook, he has to have a big name within the next 2 fights for me. If not in December, which it probably won't be, then early next year. It's got to be the big fight, the Amir Khan fight, which is one that we all want to see, or I certainly want to see. Even a Sean Porter rematch. Porter's stock has risen. You could make an argument that he's surpassed Brook slightly since he lost to Brook. The fight over Adrian Broner is bigger than anything Brook's been involved with. Kell's had his problems outside of the ring, I'll give him that. But a rematch with Porter would be a good one. A fight between Brook and Broner, perhaps. Broner's name still carries a little bit of currency. Juan Manuel Marquez, Timothy Bradley. I can't see either of them fights happening. Definitely not the next one, and probably not the one after that. Looking at the rankings, it'd probably be like a Kevin Bizier or somebody like that. But looking at Chaves, like I said, stylistically, he's a rough, dirty fighter, but I think Brook will handle him. Brook's a good inside fighter. I see him handling Chaves relatively handily. It's a decent fight. I'm glad to see him active. We'll see what they bring at the end of the year. And then next year, starting to sound a bit like Eddie now, it's going to be the big one.
I think What's got a lot of people's backs up is the fact that Eddie Hearn has been talking about the likes of Tim Bradley, Keith Thurman, one Manuel Marquez bringing him to Sheffield, which is laughable. But he's been mentioning these names, and then they fight a guy like Chaves, who I actually think's a decent fighter, and I think he's been undersold a bit by people talking about his record because he's been in tough fights, to be fair to him, and he has, especially in spots, done quite well. But I think that the other issue is that it's going to be on part of this pay-per-view show with Klitschko and Tyson Fury. Would you agree with that, Paul? That's the people have to pay a price to watch Kell Brook against Diego Chaves.
No, I don't think that's the immediate issue because people aren't talking about the pay-per-view, they're talking about the fight itself because the pay-per-view hasn't been announced yet. I think the reaction to the fight has been pretty poor. I don't actually have a huge issue with the fight itself. I mean, Kell's fighting often, and if you look at previous world champions who, in a very short space of time, they'd rattle off a few defences against what we might class as substandard opponents, but we're British fans, we have got to get real. These are the kind of welterweights that we can get over for Brook. We aren't going to get these big names over here. It's just not going to happen. I think Chaves he's a good fighter. His record outside of Argentina isn't very good, and I thought that Bradley won at least 8 or 9 of the rounds against him, but obviously he has got that draw on his resume. It's an okay fight that Kell will do very well in. I think Kell will stop him, and I think that's the whole point. Kell is much bigger and much stronger than Bradley, and I think Thurman, with that fight was a bit all over the place. I just think that Brook will get the stoppage, look good doing it, and then it looks like it will be as mandatory in December. We won't get any of the big fights this year, but that's okay. The problem is, as has been said before, is we've been told things that aren't going to happen. If no if Eddie Hearn hadn't said that Brook was going to be in with the top name, no one would have an issue with this, really. Nothing wrong with the world champion making defences at home. Fans would rather have that than him buggering off to America where they can't see him live. So it's the fact we've been promised, even we got to the point of Brandon Rios, and that hasn't been delivered. If you can't deliver that sort of opponent, you aren't going to ever be able to deliver a Bradley, a Thurman, a Marquez, etc. So the fight is okay. The pay-per-view, which I said we'll get to, it will be part of that pay-per-view, and there isn't enough time in this video for me to explain exactly how wrong that show being a pay-per-view is. But the fight itself, it's one of those you listen to it and you go, it's okay. It's not better than okay. It's not terrible. Anyone that says it's terrible, they're wrong, because he is a better fighter than Frankie Gavin or Jojo Dan. We're going in the right direction. The Kevin Bizier fight in December, which it will be Kevin Bizier, will be awful. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. For now, Chaves is an okay name. He'll have a go as well. He'll come to win, and he's cheap. He's shown in his previous fights that he's taken an incredibly small percentage of the purse compared to Bradley. I imagine it'll be a similar situation this time, so it's win-win for Matchroom again.
Paul, I actually agree with you. I know I've criticised the fight, but the expectations at the turn of the year, forget the injury for a minute. At the turn of the year, we was talking about Marquez, Corn and Bradley, and at the end of the year, we're going to have had Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, Diego Chaves, and who's the other for Bizier. Is that good enough? Expectations have not been met. At the end of year meeting, if we were to have, say, an end of year board meeting with Mr. Hearn, he would be marked down for that.
He would, but then again, I can only compare history in terms of, I always look at British fighters specifically because that's the market that we're in. If you look at the first year title defences of David Hay, Ricky Hatton and Joe Calzaghe, none of them fought a substantial fight. They either fought their mandatories or a soft defence. None of them fought anything substantial in the early part of the reign. And even though I've said this previously, even though it feels like Kell Brook's been around forever, he hasn't been a world champion that long. And coming off that injury, the fact that we have trouble with fighters, and we're trying to get boxers to fight 2 times a year. With some of the Americans, that's a right challenge. Even some of the Brits, trying to get them out often. Brook still isn't a big name. He's still not a massive pay-per-view star. The only way they're going to make him bigger is by getting him out often. And fans who buy pay-per-views, they want to see knockouts. They want to see excitement. Kell Brook has knocked his last 2 guys out. The Frankie Gavin fight was dreadful, but he has picked up 2 stoppages. He will bring more of a following. You have to remember, he's still not a huge name. You look at the ticket prices for his fight. His ticket prices are the same as they are for Smith versus Fielding. he's a world champion. It should be way more expensive, but they're not because he doesn't pull in fans. There'll be more fans at Josh Warrington's fight on Saturday than there will be at Kell Brook's fight. And until that gets changed, I don't see how. Honestly, Kell Brook's Sheffield shows don't sell out. They just don't. The last show that they did was when they set it out for Matthew Hatton, and they put the arena for a smaller setup, and it did sell out. But it's wrong because Kell Brook should, while he's over here, people should go and see him because, as we all know, we've all said before, the future for Kell Brook 100% lies in America. And the worst thing is, I think he can do really well over there. Yeah. So I have no issue with him going at all.
Yeah.
Adam, can I just jump in, Adam? I can see you shadow boxing there, and I'm just wondering that excitement at the prospect of paying £15 to watch this fight and Tyson Fury taking on Vladimir Klitschko.
Have you seen the speed though? Yeah, I'll pay it. You know me. I'll go round to my friend's house. We'll get a cookie that says Team Chunky de Gale, and I'll pay it. But talking of first-year defences, fellas, to a fella that's not been a world champion long, not operated at world level long, and not a massive name, how about Jermaine Taylor on away soil?
It's amazing what can happen when you haven't got a TV deal and you get forced into those kind of fights.
Yeah.
The fight that I would have liked to have seen was the Brandon Rios one, but obviously for whatever reason, monetary reasons, from what I understand, it just watching Adam shadowboxing there, it didn't work out. Rios, we know, likes to get paid well, and he can get paid better elsewhere. I heard an interview with him, and he was saying that it wasn't just the money. Apparently there were a lot of demands being made regarding the gloves and all the other bits and pieces. So Rios obviously thinks that he can get paid elsewhere. And is this a problem with Matchroom? They're not, Chaves comes cheap. They're not willing to go the extra mile and put that extra zero onto the check, do we think?
Well, there's at welterweight, there's at least 6 or 7 names who will earn close to or $1 million per fight at the moment. That's how hot the welterweight division is. The likes of Tim Bradley, Brandon Rios, Keith Thurman, Amir Khan, obviously the big two that we know about. Even the likes of Guerrero and Broner are still picking up huge money. Hearn can't compete with that, and I don't even blame him for that. Our market just isn't designed to compete, which is why he even failed to get someone like Brandon Rios. Chaves is the level of opponent that Hearn is capable of getting. I don't see him ever getting a much bigger name because Brook will never be that big a sell on pay-per-view, and it costs so much to get these guys out, to get mediocre guys. Brandon Rios is a human punch bag at the best of times, and he would have cost £750,000, and it's just mental.
Kurt, what was your description of Brandon Rios? A brain-dead human walking punch bag, was it?
Brain damaged punch bag, really, yeah. But I see Eddie Hearn saying this week about Brandon Rios that he didn't want to take the fight because he knew he'd lose. And he's in fear of losing. But that's nonsense because if you go by what Aaron's saying, it looks like he's going to be facing Tim Bradley later this year, which is obviously a really tough fight for Rios and one you'd expect him to lose. Rios is the type of guy you pay him, he'll fight anyone. Whatever you think about him, that's just the way he is. And like Paul said, Hearn can't or won't, put the money up for him to make the fight. And there was obviously other reasons for it, the gloves and some about a rematch clause and all the nonsense. But to be honest, people seem to be happy with Rios. Well, some people would have been, but to me, I don't get that fight. I mean, at least Chaves is, a welterweight, and he's not just a guy who's got a bit of a name because he's been in with a few fights, but he's taken beatings in those fights. To me, I've got no real issue with the Chaves fight. I separate the fight from Eddie Hearn's bollocks that he spouts, to be honest. I think if you're a fan who's believing Eddie Hearn that, we could see Marquez in Sheffield or Bradley, then yeah, you're going to be very disappointed with this fight. Or if you believe that they're going to take on better fights, but I just never thought it was going to be any one of those. I think Rios at one time looked likely, and that was the best you was ever going to get, I think, over here. And so Chaves after that is the next best option. And I think we all know if Cal wants those fights, apart from Amir Khan over here, if Cal wants those other big names, he's going to have to travel to America.
To be honest, I think Khan's going to like this fight because, like me, he'll be able to point to the Chaves record and use it as a way to hate on Brook and yet another excuse in the Amir Khan repertoire to not fight Brook.
I wonder where Kel fits into the American political situation, like you mentioned, Kurt. He is going to have to travel at some point. I mean, Brook's not strictly aligned with any of the major power players in America, which should leave him open to fight anyone and everyone at the weight. Now, we know that Hearn apparently has these links with Al Heyman, so fights with his stable could theoretically be easier to make, but the way I see the Heyman situation is that he doesn't do deals with people, he doesn't do favours or pull any strings. If a fight suits him, if signing a fighter suits him, and if something makes sense to his business, then it happens. Otherwise, he doesn't bother with you. You know, there's no deals, agreements, or anything made unless it's on Al's terms. He's got the big fighters and a huge slice of the power, especially where the European promoters stand. I think he calls the shots. That's the impression I get. If it suits him for Brook to come over, it'll happen. If not, it won't.
And just on Heyman and Mr. Hearn, I've noticed on especially the more recent interviews with Eddie, he don't mention Al himself, my mate Al. He mentions Heyman's people. I don't think he ever speaks to Heyman.
No, but he does. None of the fighters have ever met him, have they?
Mm.
I think for the select few, no, but like I said, he's running his operation in a way that he's, like I said, we talked about before with Selby. I mean, Selby's now got a fight on ESPN. You know, this is what Heyman can deliver for these guys, and that's what he could deliver for Brook. The Heyman monopoly controls the majority of the top welterweights in the world. Top Rank have a few, but Heyman's got most of them. So it makes total sense. Kell Brook could go over there and fight a Guerrero. We may laugh about him over here because of some of his performances, but Guerrero is a great name. I mean, he's a big name in America. He's been on big pay-per-views. So you've got that option. You've got the likes of Berto after Mayweather 120, 108's him. You know, there's plenty of options if he makes that move. What Heyman won't do is send his guys here because it won't fit his networking schedule. He hasn't shown any inkling of doing that. They're talking about, Hearn was talking about Selby, Warrington, and that could happen, but that's because it's two British fighters over here. He'll let that happen, but he's not about to send one of his Americans over here.
Yeah. Going off subject, fellas. What do we make of Fernando Montiel, and what has he done since Nonito Donaire obliterated him? I know that's a casual type question, but I haven't really paid much attention.
I tell you what he's done, Adam.
Yeah.
He met me in Belfast. He's a very small guy, and it's fair to say his best days were a couple of weight divisions below. Quite what he'll do at this higher weight, not much. He's too small.
Yeah, even at his best, he's way too small, isn't he? And now he's just basically, it's sad to see, but he's basically cannon fodder for Selby to look good against to the American market. You know, to Americans who will have seen a bit of Montiel before, not much, but they'll have seen a bit of him, and he's someone who Selby. It's a name fighter that Selby can really take apart, and I'd expect him to be honest, because not only is he undersized, but he's so far past his best now. It's a sad fight, to be honest, but you can understand why they've looked at someone like him to boost Selby over there.
And what date's that?
Isn't it on like midweek, a Thursday?
It's on a Wednesday night.
Really? Mm.
But Adam mentioned him earlier, Amir Khan. Lamont Peterson's got a fight lined up now. It looks like Danny Garcia is going to be taking on Robert Guerrero. Do you have any ideas who Khan might be taking on in November, December?
Not a clue, and the man is actual years of being wasted. Like, Kell Brook might waste 1 year, i.e. 2015, with the Frankie Gavins. Amir Khan has wasted multiple years over there. He has put in some excellent performances while he's over there. Brilliant. Yeah, I thought he was superb against Alexander. I thought he was very good against Chris Algieri. But what is the end game? Where has it got him? They're still giving tickets away to his fights. He does get big paychecks. Yeah, fair dues. He does get big paychecks. And the fan base in England is almost now non-existent. Where's the progress, Al Heyman? When I have my end of year meeting with Mr. Heyman as well, where's Amir Khan's progress? That'll be the question.
But, I mean, Steve, Paul, do you have any names that you could maybe see him in against? Because for me, the obvious one was a rematch with Peterson or maybe Garcia, but I thought Peterson was the ideal one for him, and now he's fighting I think he's fighting next month. That looks like it's not going to happen. So, Al's got a big stable, but anyone come to mind?
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't fight again this year. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, Khan Peterson wasn't a particularly great fight. I haven't got a huge amount of interest in seeing that again. And if I'm Khan, I wouldn't want to go near Peterson anyway after the whole hassle of the last fight. I think a fight that makes a lot of sense for Amir Khan, it won't happen now, but I think Khan Porter is a good fight. I still like Khan Broner. I know obviously these guys are in fights coming up, but I think Khan Broner is still an exciting fight to watch. It's all about styles of Khan that gel well with him, and both of those guys I think would be good options. But where Adam says about the end game, I mean, Khan is cashing checks 3 times as big as Kell Brooks. He's fighting live in America. His fan base over here may be dwindling, but he's doing very well for himself.
You know, when Mayweather retires, and he will say the words, "I am retired," how long will Khan hang about for? You know, how long will he get away with saying, "I can tempt Floyd Mayweather out of retirement"? Because he's been saying, "I can fight Floyd Mayweather for 3 years while he's active, or officially active," and that's not worked. How long can he get away with it while Floyd is apparently retired?
It's going to be one of those Vitaly Lennox Lewis type things, isn't it? Where years after you'll probably still be talking about it. But that's actually on Mayweather's retirement. Who out of the panel believe that Andre Berto will be Mayweather's last fight? Does anyone?
No.
No.
Do you know?
I
do you know what?
do.
I'm thinking more about it, and do you know what got me? It was when he was with Roger. I don't know if you've watched the All Access with Roger Mayweather, who just looks so ill. And I saw an interview with Floyd where he talked about him on YouTube, and he's saying that after that press dinner, or whatever it was, the Nevada Hall of Fame dinner, Roger went missing. He just wandered off. I think Floyd is scared of being hurt and injured. That's why he always slags off Muhammad Ali. That's why he always says comments like he does. I think that his biggest fear is to be ill, and something about, I don't know, everyone thinks it's an assumption that he'll do 50, but you know, he's so rich and he's got absolutely everything. Why would he keep fighting when he doesn't? And he's getting on. Why would he keep going? I know there's more money to be had and whatnot, but part of me thinks he may retire and have a break, and he may come back.
Yeah.
But I think it would make a lot of people will slag it off the opponent going out to Berto, but like I said, the Berto fight is terrible in terms of the options available to him, but I actually think it'll be a decent fight to watch for a change for Mayweather, and I just think that I wouldn't begrudge him if he said no after this.
I think you're right what you say, Paul, but then fighters sometimes it's so hard to give it up, isn't it? I mean, look at Bernard Hopkins, promised his mom that he was going to retire, and then he just carried on and on. Roy Jones regularly visited Jared McClellan. That looked like it was going to be, you know, the thing that would push him into retirement at a decent time. He always said he would never go on, still going on well past his peak now. I agree with you what you say about the Roger thing, but the ego, the money, everything kicks in. It's so difficult for these fighters to walk away.
My first thoughts on it when he started talking about this 6-fight deal and 49 was that, yeah, he may give up after 49, but the fact that it is Andre Berto as number 49 points to me directly that there will be at least a 50th.
Thing is, though, in Floyd's mind, you know, he's already fought the biggest fight. I mean, he's 2 of the fights on this 6-fight deal. He's fought Alvarez and Pacquiao, the 2 biggest names out there. Yep. So, you know, it's not like he's avoided fights. And the thing that frustrates me with Floyd, and I'm a huge Mayweather fan for what he does in the ring, the thing that frustrates me the most about him was just imagine if in 2005, 2007, that sort of period, he was fighting twice a year. Just imagine how many fights he would have had. Just imagine how many wins he'd have racked up. Instead, he wasted that time. And now we've seen some really good stuff from him the last 3 years, but he's past his peak now. Just imagine what we could have got when he was sort of that Ricky Hatton era, when he was performing at that level. It's a real shame, and that's why when he spouts all this TBE crap, the problem is he blew his chance to be considered for that because he wasn't fighting regularly enough.
Do you have any sympathy for the argument that sometimes people put forward? Maybe sympathy is not the right word, but the fact that he says I'm owed these type of fights like Berto fights because I gave you the Pacquiao fight, the fight that everybody wanted, and now I'm sort of, you know, allowed this past. Some people sort of use that as a way to defend these type of fights. Does anybody have give any credence to that view?
Well, given that we did a similar video on Mr. Frotch recently, and that man wasn't allowed a pass, so no.
Yeah, but Floyd has fought. You look at his resume, the last 10, 12 fights, he's since pretty much since Gatti, he's been fighting consistent world champion, world champion, world champion. He's never had an easy night. He's never had a gimme fight.
Yeah, but it's when he wants, and the weight he wants, and the day he wants, and the gloves he wants.
But that's what you get when you're the A-side fighter in any division. I mean, he is the biggest. Every fighter earns their biggest payday pretty much when they fight him. And like I said, as big a draw as Manny Pacquiao is, Manny Pacquiao took a short end of a deal because he knew that fighting Floyd Mayweather would get him that huge amount of money. He has changed, for in a lot of negative ways, he's changed the sport. In a lot of positive ways, he's changed it. But the problem for me with Floyd is he just doesn't ever look a happy guy. All that money in the world, he's got everything, but he doesn't look happy. And that's what I think he could still keep fighting. But like I said to me before, what's happened to Roger, and do you know what as well? Roger's not exactly Mr. Perfect by a long shot, but seeing what he was like just a couple of years ago to seeing what he is now, it's pretty horrible to watch. And I think that has had more of an effect on him than he would probably let out.
I think Mayweather's personality makes people obviously look for reasons to dislike him as well, and I think people do put him on a higher pedestal where they want him to face the absolute best. Like, you fight Canelo, you got to fight Pacquiao, now we want you to fight Golovkin. And to me it seems like a lot of other guys are not on that pedestal. I mean, look at everyone's, the most iconic fighter, iconic sportsman, Muhammad Ali. Yeah, he fought some absolute dross, let's be honest. When he came back, he went on a world tour and fought absolute shite. But he also fought the best of his era as well. And to the most degree, whether you think they're past the best or not, Mayweather's done kind of the same thing. He fought Pacquiao, he fought Canelo, he fought Marquez, he fought Mosley. And yeah, people always say, oh, he never fought them at their best or whatever, but he still fought them. So, I mean, I made the point a few weeks back. Roy Jones was pound for pound number one. He fought an off-duty cop. Now, yes, it wasn't on pay-per-view. I understand that, but let's not make up that Floyd's the first ever best fighter in the world to fight a lesser opponent. I mean, Andre Berto, yeah, he's 3-3 in his last 6. He's always been overrated in my opinion, but he's not an off-duty cop. He's not, someone who, he's not at one stage was looked upon as a top welterweight. And like I said, it's not that I think he's earned the right to go out like this, but I just don't think it's as bad as a lot of people say. Like, it's the worst thing to happen to boxing. The fact is, it would have been nice if he'd put it on terrestrial TV, but I never thought that would happen myself.
I think that the Pacquiao fight was the culmination of Mayweather's career as far as I was interested anyway. Anything he does now, I'm sort of looking past him, trying to look to see where the green shoots are springing up for the next big thing, the next big fighters. Even if it's not a Mayweather type name pulling the sport along, the next big guys below him, if they fight each other, that's really what I'm looking forward to. Mayweather can sort of sail off into the sunset now, unless he puts on a load of weight and says I'm fighting Triple G. Then his career is faded out as far as I'm concerned.
But also, I mean, why should why should he fight the guys like Golovkin? People are saying, oh, he's ducking Golovkin now. I mean, it's a nonsense. I mean, Floyd's not a big guy. He's come up through. I mean, when he was an amateur, he was fighting at 106. I mean, he's gone through the weights, won real world titles in every single weight division he's been in. And you could say if you beat Golovkin, there'd always be someone else. And that's the thing. He's hit his peak. He's beaten Manny Pacquiao. He ended that never-ending discussion of who was the best fighter of our modern era. It's Floyd Mayweather. And a bit like I said with Calzaghe, after he beat Jones, they said, well, why don't you go and fight, Chad Dawson? There's always someone else. But this is, I think, the CBS, like you said, would have been great. It would have been good to have it on free TV as a thank you to the fans, who have made him pretty much a half a billionaire. But it was never going to happen. It's boxing. Boxing doesn't do sentimental.
No, I agree with you, Paul. Obviously, I'm not calling for him to fight Golovkin or anything like that, but I'm just saying I'm sort of looking for exciting, competitive fights now, and that's the next thing I'm looking for. I'm not saying that Mayweather has to fight like Golovkin or anything like that, but just you know what I mean.
There's three names which need to move on, in my opinion, for boxing to progress at the moment, and that's Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, and Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah,
they're three guys who they were the king of 2000 2010. They're still the kings now, but they need to move on. We need the welterweight scene has been so stagnant with all these great fighters because they're all playing it safe to get the big fight. When the big fight goes, we will start to get some awesome fights at one. Just think of the matchups you can make at 147. There's so many good ones. It's the same heavyweight to a lesser extent, but guys wouldn't be frightened of taking on challenges because they're just trying to get the Klitschko money. So I think these are the guys that need to move on.
Yeah, they want the Mayweather mega money, don't they? So let them make the big money, not the money they're going to make Mayweather, but let them make the big money fighting each other once Mayweather moves on.
Is that Paul's underhanded way of saying that he helps Tyson Fury defeats Vladimir Klitschko? I think it is there.
Oh,
Yeah,
do you know what?
He hopes, but he doesn't believe.
I want Klitschko to lose, but I'd rather he lost to a professional athlete like Anthony Joshua than Tyson Fury.
Shots fired.
That's going to get some Fury fans in a bit of a pickle, I suppose.
Yeah. But now, do you know what as well? Like, it'd be great if Fury won. It's slightly off topic, but just imagine Twitter will be I mean, I'd have to delete my account, but Twitter will be stunning for those next few days.
Well, just before we end this live show, let's quickly get your predictions for that fight. I mean, Paul, I'll go with you first. How do you see that one going?
Brook Chaves.
Yeah, and Klitschko Fury.
Brook will stop him late, and it will be he'll win every round and stop him. I really think he will. Too big, too strong. Klitschko will knock Tyson Fury out.
Too big, too strong.
Yeah. Klitschko will knock Tyson Fury out anytime he wants. If he's trying to drag it out for his advertisers, then I think he stops him around 7 or 8. But if he wanted to, he could knock him out in round 1.
Steve?
I'm going to go for Brook to beat Chaves widely on points, but with Chaves hanging on for dear life in the last few rounds. And I'm going to go for Klitschko on points as well, unanimous decision, but maybe a 117, 111, a little bit closer than people think, with Fury being more competitive than people think, and maybe taking a punch better than people think. And hopefully on the undercard we can see Usyk step up and then get a fight on the American undercards, because I think he could be one of the next big things.
Adam, you're doing your shadow boxing there. You're looking to be Brook's next opponent by the looks of it. What are your predictions?
I've got no chance of getting down to 147. I think, but make it clear that Chaves as an opponent ain't terrible. It ain't as bad as Berto, but the sell is difficult. And as I keep saying, the expectations were set high. They have not been met. I think that Kell Brook will knock out Chaves later. I've got a bit of I'm breathing now, and I think that I agree with Paul. Klitschko will knock Fury out whenever he wants, no problem.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think Klitschko's going to get rid of him early, to be honest. I think it's going to be like a 4 or 5 round job. I see Chaves giving Brook some issues early, but Brook winning, 116, 112, something like that, a comfortable decision in the end. I think it'll be a decent fight. Well, if there's nothing else to discuss, I'd like to thank Steve Wellins, Adam Smith, doing all these little crazy things in the background, Paul Webb. I've been your host, Kurt Ward. Tune into Sunday's live podcast, which will be on Hangout as well on the YouTube channel, and we'll keep bringing out some of these videos as well. Thanks a lot.
Peace.
Fuck next big pod.
Yeah, we declare war on them.